The December wind in New York City is a living thing. It has teeth. It bites through thin fabric and gnaws at exposed skin until the numbness feels like a mercy for 10-year-old Maya. The wind was the only thing that paid any attention to her at all. She sat huddled at the base of a towering skyscraper on Wall Street. Her knees were pulled tight to her chest. A pair of oversized, worn-out sneakers, 2 sizes too big, were the only barrier between her feet and the freezing concrete. She was invisible. Thousands of people streamed past her. A river of charcoal wool coats, shiny leather briefcases, and eyes fixed firmly on smartphone screens. They stepped around her the way water flows around a stone, without looking, without feeling. Maya didn't want to be there. 2 weeks ago, she and her mother had a warm bed in a shelter in the Bronx. But then, the sickness came. The ambulance took her mother away in the middle of the night, and in the chaos, Maya was left behind. She looked up at the building looming over her, the Thorn Tower. It pierced the gray sky like a needle. It was a monument to money, to power, and right now, the doors were opening. A hush fell over the sidewalk. The chaotic stream of pedestrians slowed down. A man stepped out. He was flanked by 2 large security guards who looked more like statues than men. The man in the middle was Elias Thorn, the CEO, the billionaire, the ice king of Wall Street. He was tall, wearing a tailored Italian suit that cost more than a house in some parts of the country. He moved with the kind of confidence that says the world exists solely for his convenience. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She was terrified, but the hunger was louder than the fear. She scrambled to her feet. Her legs were stiff from the cold. She pushed through the invisible barrier that separated the rich from the forgotten. She stepped directly into his path. The security guards moved instantly, a wall of muscle closing in. Back away. One of them growled, reaching for her shoulder. But Maya didn't back away. She looked up, way up, into the cold face of Elias Thorn. She held out a trembling hand. Her fingers were red and chapped. "Sir," she whispered. Her voice was thin, carried away by the wind. "Please, sir." Elias Thorn stopped. The world seemed to stop with him. He looked down. He didn't look annoyed. He didn't look angry. He looked bored. "Move her." Elias said to the guard. His voice was smooth, baritone, and completely devoid of warmth. "Wait." Maya said, a sudden surge of desperation making her voice louder. "I don't want a lot. I just need $1. The crowd on the sidewalk had stopped moving. They were watching now, waiting for the spectacle. Elias paused. He tilted his head slightly. He looked at the little girl, really looked at her. He saw the dirt smudged on her cheek. The way her coat was buttoned wrong because her fingers were too cold to work the loops. $1. Elias repeated. "Yes." Maya nodded, her eyes wide and watery. "Just one, please." Elias let out a short, sharp breath. He checked his watch, a $50,000 timepiece. "I make $10,000 every second I am alive," Elias said coldly. "Asking me for $1 is a waste of my time, and yours." He stepped around her. Maya felt the tears freeze on her cheeks. She had failed, but then Elias stopped again. His hand was on the door handle of his limousine. He stood there for a long, agonizing second. He turned around. "Why?" he asked. The question hung in the freezing air. "Why $1? Elias asked, his eyes narrowing. "Why not 10? Why not 100? Why just 1? Maya wiped her nose with her sleeve. She sniffled because, she said, her voice shaking, the payphone at the station. "It costs 50 cents to make a call and 50 cents for a hot chocolate. I need to call the hospitals to find my mom. And my hands hurt from the cold." Silence descended on the street. Elias Thorn stared at her. His expression didn't change. The mask of the CEO remained in place, but deep in his eyes, something flickered, a ghost of a memory. A door in his mind that he had welded shut 40 years ago just cracked open. He took his hand off the limousine door, canceled the lunch meeting. He said to his assistant, "But sir," the assistant stammered, "the merger. I said cancel it." Elias looked at Maya. He gestured toward the revolving gold doors of his tower. "Keep your $1." Elias said, "Come with me." The lobby of Thorn Tower smelled like expensive cologne and ozone. The floors were marble, polished to a mirror shine. It was a cathedral of capitalism, and Maya was a stain on its perfection. As she walked in behind Elias, the click-clack of secretaries' heels stopped. Everyone stared. Maya shrank into her coat. She left small, muddy footprints on the white marble. A security guard inside the lobby stepped forward. His eyes were fixed on Maya with disgust. "Mr. Thorn," the guard said, putting a hand out to block Maya, "we can't have this in the building. It violates health and safety codes. I'll escort her out the back." Elias stopped walking. He turned slowly to face the guard. "This?" Elias asked softly. The guard blinked. The girl, sir, she's filthy." Elias took a step closer. "This building belongs to me." Elias said, "The marble you are standing on, the uniform you are wearing, the air you are breathing, it is all mine, and right now she is my guest." Elias leaned in. If you block her path again, you will be looking for a job at the sanitation department by noon. You understand?" The guard swallowed hard. "Yes, Mr. Thorne. Sorry, Mr. Thorne." Elias gestured for Maya to follow. They reached the private elevator. It was gold-plated. The doors slid open with a whisper. Maya stepped inside. She had never been in an elevator this nice. It had plush red carpet. The doors closed, shutting out the staring eyes of the lobby. Suddenly, it was just the two of them, the most powerful man in the city and the most powerless girl. The elevator began to rise. Smoothly, rapidly, Maya hugged her chest. The warmth of the building was starting to thaw her frozen skin. But that brought a new kind of pain, the pins and needles of blood returning to her fingers. She winced, rubbing her hands together. Elias watched her from the corner of his eye. He reached into his suit pocket. He pulled out a handkerchief. It was silk, pristine white. He handed it to her. "For your nose," he said gruffly. Maya took it hesitantly. It was softer than anything she had ever touched. She wiped her face, leaving a streak of grime on the expensive silk. He wasn't looking at the cloth. He was looking at her shoes. "Those aren't yours," he stated. "I found them," Maya whispered, "in a bin behind a gym. They're too big." Elias said, "You'll trip." "Better than nothing," she replied. Elias went silent. "Better than nothing." The phrase echoed in his head. Suddenly, he wasn't in a gold elevator. He was 7 years old. He was in Detroit. It was snowing. He was wearing his father's old boots, stuffed with newspaper to make them fit. He remembered the shame, the way people looked through him. He had built this tower, this empire, this armor of money, so that he would never feel that way again, but looking at Maya. The little boy was digging his way out. "Where is your father?" Elias asked. "Gone," she said, "before I was born, and your mother, she got sick." Maya said, her voice trembling again. She had a fever. She was talking crazy. "The ambulance came to the shelter. They wouldn't let me in." She looked up at him. "I just need to find which hospital. I just need to tell her I'm okay, if she knows I'm okay." "She'll get better," she promised. The elevator chimed. Floor 100, the penthouse boardroom. The doors opened. "We aren't going to a phone." Elias said, "Not yet." Maya panicked. "But you said," "I said come with me." Elias said firmly, "I have a meeting, and you are going to help me run it." The boardroom was a vast expanse of glass. Around a mahogany table sat 12 people. The board of directors, vultures in expensive suits. They were discussing layoffs. "If we cut the factory in Ohio," a balding man named Mr. Henderson was saying, "we save 15 million next quarter. The workers are redundant." "Agreed." A woman named Linda nodded. "Stock prices will jump 3 points." The door opened. Elias walked in. The room fell silent. Usually Elias entered alone like a storm front. Today, he walked in with a small, dirty, shivering girl, a coat 3 sizes too big. The board members stared. "Elias," Henderson asked, "is this a joke?" "Sit down, Maya," Elias said, pulling out the leather chair at the head of the table. His chair. Maya froze. I'll get it dirty. Sit." Elias commanded gently. She sat. She looked tiny in the massive leather throne. Her feet dangled a foot off the ground. Elias remained standing behind her. "This is Maya." Elias announced to the room, "She is our new consultant." Linda let out a nervous laugh. "Elias, really? We have the merger to discuss. We don't have time for games." "Games?" Elias's voice dropped. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. "You think this is a game?" He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a crisp single $1 bill. He slammed it onto the mahogany table. It wasn't a loud noise, but it echoed like a gunshot. "Mr. Henderson," Elias said, "what is this?" Henderson looked at the bill, confused. "It's $1, Elias. What can you buy with it?" Henderson scoffed. "Nothing, a stick of gum. It's worthless. It's a rounding error." Elias looked at Linda. "Linda, what is the value of this dollar to you?" "It's nothing." She said, "I wouldn't bend over to pick it up on the street." Elias nodded slowly. "Worthless. Nothing. A rounding error." He looked down at Maya. She was staring at the dollar bill with a hunger that the people in this room could never understand. To her, that piece of paper was a lifeline. It was a voice. It was warmth. "Maya," Elias said softly, "what would you do with this dollar?" Maya looked at the scary people in the suits. Then she looked at the bill. "I would buy a hot chocolate," she whispered. "Speak up," Elias said. "A hot chocolate." She said louder so my hands would stop hurting. And if I had any left over. "I would buy a minute on the phone to call who?" Elias asked. "My mom," Maya said. Tears began to well up in her eyes again to tell her I love her because she might die and I don't want her to be afraid. The silence in the boardroom changed. It wasn't the silence of awkwardness anymore. It was the silence of shame. Mr. Henderson looked down at his papers. Linda stopped tapping her pen. Elias looked around the table. His eyes were blazing. "You want to fire 3,000 people in Ohio." Elias said, his voice rising, "to save 15 million. To you, those people are numbers on a spreadsheet." He pointed at Maya. "But to someone, that paycheck you are cutting is a hot chocolate. It is a phone call to a dying mother. It is the difference between living and surviving." Elias grabbed the dollar bill. "I built this company to be great," he said, but somewhere along the way, I became just like you. I became a man who wouldn't pick up a dollar, a man who forgot what it feels like to be cold. He looked at Maya. Meeting adjourned. Elias said, the Ohio factory stays open. We find the savings somewhere else. Cut executive bonuses, start with mine, but Elias, Henderson protested, that's millions, get out. Elias whispered, and they scrambled, leaving Elias and Maya alone in the glass tower. Maya looked up at Elias. She was trembling. Did I do something wrong? She asked. Are you mad? Elias sat down in the chair next to her. He slumped. For the first time, he didn't look like a titan of industry. He looked like a tired old man. No, Maya, he sighed. You did everything right. I was the one who was wrong. He reached for the office phone on the table. Do you know your mother's full name? He asked. Sarah Jenkins. Maya said. Elias dialed, but he didn't dial a hospital. He dialed a private number. This is Thorne, he said into the receiver. I need you to locate a Sarah Jenkins. Admitted to a hospital in the Bronx or Manhattan within the last 48 hours. Find her, you have 10 minutes. He hung up. Maya watched him with wide eyes. You can find her. I can find anyone. Elias said, it's the one thing money is actually good for. They waited. Elias stood up and pulled out a plate of gourmet sandwiches left over from a lunch spread. He placed the plate in front of Maya. Eat, he said. Maya didn't wait. She grabbed a sandwich and ate it in 3 bites. Elias watched her. When I was your age, he said quietly, looking out the window. I lived in a car, a rusted-out sedan, just me and my dad. Maya stopped chewing. Yes, Elias said. My dad was a good man, but he had bad luck. We lost the house. He turned to face her. I used to beg. Elias confessed. Outside the old train station, I would ask for a nickel. Just to buy a newspaper so my dad could look for jobs in the classifieds. Did people give it to you? Maya asked. Sometimes, Elias said. Mostly they looked away. They pretended I wasn't there. I hated them. I swore that one day I would be so rich that no one could ever look past me again. He gestured to the massive office, so I built this. I became the most powerful man in the city. But you know what, Maya? What? I forgot the boy in the car. Elias said, his voice cracking. I became the man who looks away. The phone rang. Maya jumped. Elias picked it up. He listened. He nodded. Is she stable? Elias asked. He listened again. Okay, keep her there. Move her to a private room. Get the best specialists. I'm covering the bill, all of it. He hung up. He looked at Maya. A small, genuine smile broke through his icy features. St. Mary's Hospital. Elias said, she has pneumonia, it's bad, but the doctors say she will recover with the right medicine. Maya let out a sob, a sound of pure relief. She slid out of the giant chair and ran to Elias. She wrapped her arms around his waist and buried her face in his jacket. Thank you, she cried. Thank you. Elias stood stiffly for a moment. He hadn't been hugged in 20 years. Slowly, awkwardly, placed his hand on her head. Come on, he said, his voice thick. Let's go get that hot chocolate. Then we're going to see your mom. The black limousine wove through traffic. Maya sat in the back, sipping a steaming cup of the richest cocoa she had ever tasted. Her hands were warm, her stomach was full. Elias sat across from her. He was on his tablet, typing furiously. What are you doing? Maya asked. Buying a house. Elias muttered. A house for you and your mother, Elias said. I own a building on 4th Street. It has a nice apartment on the 2nd floor. It's vacant. It's yours. Maya dropped her cup. We can't pay rent, she whispered. No rent. Elias said, and I'm setting up a trust. Your mother won't have to worry about medical bills, and you are going to school, a real school. Why? Maya asked. Why are you doing this? Elias put the tablet down. He looked at her with intense seriousness. Because you reminded me of something I lost, he said. You reminded me that the value of $1 isn't what it can buy. It's what it can give. The car pulled up to the hospital. Elias walked Maya inside. They reached a private room. Maya saw her mother lying in the bed. Maya, her mother rasped. Mom, Maya ran to the bed. Elias stood in the doorway. He watched them embrace. He watched the tears. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, warmer than any deal he had ever closed. He turned to leave to give them privacy. Wait. Maya ran back to him. She reached into her pocket. She pulled out the $1 bill he had used in the boardroom. She had kept it. She held it out to him. Here, she said. Elias frowned. I don't need it, Maya. Take it, she insisted. Elias took the crumpled bill. Why? He asked. Keep it in your pocket, Maya said, smiling, so you never forget the boy in the car. Elias looked at the dollar. Then he looked at Maya. He nodded. He carefully folded the bill and placed it in the inside pocket of his suit, right next to his heart. I won't, he promised. 6 months later, Elias Thorne was still the king of Wall Street, but things had changed. He had started a foundation, the Open Door Initiative. It provided housing and jobs for thousands of homeless families in the city. He still walked into his building every morning, but he didn't look straight ahead anymore. He looked at the people, and every Tuesday afternoon, he left work early because every Tuesday A little girl named Maya would be waiting in the lobby. They would go to a small cart on the corner. Elias would reach into his pocket and pull out a crumpled old dollar bill. He would look at it for a second, smiling. Then he would put it back and pay with a 20. He would buy 2 hot chocolates. And the billionaire and the girl would sit on a bench watching the city go by, neither of them invisible anymore. Thanks for watching. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.